The first time that you get ready to use the scanner, you'll have to import it into your project. So after you add the object in there, you'll see this red X over here, and all you'll have to do is import the scanner object. So import scanner from the Java utility package, and that will add an import line up here to the top of your program. Typically, whenever you get ready to use the scanner, you'll have this little notification here that says this is a resource link because it's never closed. So in order to keep that error from happening, you can go down to the end of your program and you can put in the scan or take the scanner name, which we've called end, and use a method called close, and that will close out the scanner so that it's no longer left open and it's not considered a leaked resource. So if you kind of compare that to leaving a window open whenever your furnace is on, it's the same idea. You're just letting those resources just fly out the window whenever you're not using them. So you'll want to close that scanner whenever you're done using it. Typically it's at the end of your program. Eclipse will put in this import statement for you. Usually it'll go on line 1 or line 2 depending on how your program is set up. So this line is something that you should never have to type. Just let Eclipse put it in there for you. So in this particular example, I'm asking a student what their GPA is, and I'm grabbing the double, storing it into a GPA variable. I'm asking them how many credits. That's going to be an int, so I'm using my next int method to capture the integer stored into credits. Then I'm asking them what their major is, and whenever I'm going to capture that string into a variable called major. And I have two methods that I want to show you, in.next and in.nextLine, so that you can see the difference between the two of them. And once I get this information, all I'm doing is just repeating it out again so that you can see what goes into it. So let me run this. Right now, for the major, for the string, I'm using in.next. And that means that it's going to capture the next character or the next characters until it finds a space. So let me show you what I mean. So if you look down here in our output, you can see that for the major, I typed in comp sci, but for the major it only captured comp. I didn't have any problems with the double or with the integer. So with the in.next, it only captures what it finds until it finds a space. And then how it handles this will depend on what your program does. Sometimes if it's at the end of your program, like it is here, it will just disregard it. If it's in the middle of your program, it may try to capture it and put it into a different variable. So that's in.next. It just grabs a set of characters until it finds a space. So let me show you in.nextLine. Let me uncomment this. We'll save it and we'll run it again. So on this one, you can see that it skipped over what is your major. And instead, it didn't put anything in there, didn't even prompt us. So this is a common problem whenever you're hopping between different data types, particularly whenever you've captured a number of some kind and then you're ready to capture a string. So if this happens to you, it's nothing to be concerned. What is being left on the line after this integer is what's called a line break. So down here, it captured the 12, but it did not remove the line break so that it would go on to the next part to capture. So whenever you have you're alternating between ints and doubles and strings, what you have to do is clear that line break. And we don't need to do anything with it, so this is kind of why I showed you that first video there. We can just clear the line with an in.nextLine. Then that will let it pause so that it can get what is your major. Let me run this again. And you can see now it captured the whole piece. It stopped and paused because the line break was originally being captured by major, but because we put this in here, now it's being captured here. Even though we're not storing it into a variable, we've just got it off the line and we're able to use it. So this is a little tricky as you get started. I want to show you one more example too, where I add in, let's add in something right here where we get the advisor information. Now between GPA, where I capture a double, and credits, where I capture an integer, I'm going to capture a string. I'm going to ask who the advisor is. And I know that after it captures this double, it's just going to grab the number. It's not going to grab the line break afterwards. So if I run this right now, it'll skip over the advisor question. It won't let me type in who my advisor is. It just skips on over to how many credits. So the way to resolve this, again, after I capture that double, if I just do an in.nextLine, it will capture that line break. And then it will stop and wait for me to prompt for who is my advisor. And keep that information, it'll print that information out below. Typically, whenever you're working with strings, because you don't know how many words they're going to put in, usually you'll use an in.nextLine versus an in.next. So in this case, if my advisor used in.next, I want to show you what happens. So that means it's only going to capture the first word till it finds a space. So now in.next captured the Kelly, but did not capture the Joe. So whenever it asks how many credit, it actually tries to put in the Joe for how many credits. Well, Joe is a string, but it's waiting to capture an integer. So what you end up with is an exception, an input mismatch exception. So it's expecting an integer, but it received a string and it doesn't know how to handle that. So it throws this exception. And if this happens, this does not necessarily mean that your program is broken. It may mean that you've, like I did here, typed in the wrong type, the wrong data type. Sometimes whenever you're testing, you'll accidentally put doubles in where you need to put integers in. So check your program again, and these are some of the issues that you'll find whenever you work through testing.